So City Row, I think was pretty smooth sailing, smooth rowing,
Pretty
I guess.
straightforward, right? Like it's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The one interesting thing that came out of that for me was the discussion around tone,
Mm,
because we get the style guide and we get all the buzzwords and the brand outlines and all of that. But then there's also that very fine line where we have to use our discretion, and we have to
yeah,
apply what we know as learning professionals to the
yeah.
context that we're in. So that just sort of like kicked in for me again yesterday, or whatever day it was, I don't know. And so just like I think that's always just something to keep in mind, and I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are around where, and I think it links actually to what you were saying, Michelle, around where if at all we sort of draw that line in the sand, and I think the answer came out now while we were discussing is like we did with City Rose, communicate to them like this is the tone that we took based on the context. We see that this is what's in your guidelines, but we also see that you look at these clear, concise sort of communication modes. How can we pivot off of this? So that question actually has been answered for me.
Yeah.
Can
I just comment on that quickly, because
sure.
A couple points. We don't often get a document as detailed as that had
really
like
okay.
Especially tone of voice stuff. Like most of the style guides I've seen are visual. Like this is how logos, fonts, that kind of stuff. So that one was actually a lot more detail. I also found like it was an exercise of post hoc rationalizing what we were doing, as opposed to, because they only sent it to us after you'd done that. But that was actually still useful, because like we reading that thing was like, oh, clear and concise was actually one of their brand values in how they communicate. So great, like we made our stuff clear and concise. And then lastly, I think just reading something like that, if a client has that, it's just useful to like get the vibe, like it's just like, it's not, I don't think there's like a big exercise that needs to happen. It's just read it once or twice and kind of like, all right, like this is the vibe that they're going for. This is how they talk to their customers or their people or whatever. And then kind of like using that frame in your voice.
To position it.
Yeah. But that's like, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool thing about what you guys are doing and what we do as writers in this context is that we adopt different voices. So I think that's another interesting thing. It's like that's quite a high level of writing. You're like you're taking on a character almost, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. When were we talking about ghostwriting? It was that podcast.
On podcast, yeah.
And that's really what we do. It's ghostwriting. That's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
And ghost thinking.
Yeah. I always like, I don't know if you guys like think of a character in your mind, like when you're writing these things. Like I often, when I was writing scripts, I'd always do that, like sort of like picture this character and I'm talking to, in this case, someone who's like, signed up a customer, a rowing customer. Like, do you guys do that as well? Do you sort of visualize someone in your head?
I do. If it's content if it's a subject matter that I'm very comfortable with. If it's something that's completely out of my realm of knowledge or comfort, I put myself in the student's position and I write for my perception, because if I can't understand it and if I can't be engaged by what's being produced, then probably somebody else isn't going to be either.
Yeah.
So that's generally the tack that I take. I don't know, Michelle, if you have any characters.
With videos, it's so much easier because you're already visualizing your characters while you're writing the script. It's different for different courses. I agree with Sarah. Like PagerDuty has more character-like nuances than Pinterest does. So it's a lot easier for me to go, oh, I totally see this. It like unfolds completely in front of me. Whereas, and also it has everything to do with the mindset of the client.
Absolutely.
So,
just with PJ, you don't lie, the show. You have a little miniature of PJ on your desk while you're writing for PJ. You just channel her. I still
know what she looked like in the yellow jumpsuit, but Andrew refuses to tell me.
Oh, Molly can send you a picture. Molly can send you a picture.
What? Tangenting. Sorry.
Molly edited the pictures.
This woman like we can't believe. She is everything. But going back, if they have like a really solid foundation for what they want, it comes through completely in discovery, and it gets me excited, and it means more time to be creative, less time to be problem solving and getting the idea in my head.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah,
but I also find that I kind of fall back sometimes on the mentor voice when it comes to Pinterest. But it's something that they want. It's something that you want, that companion that comes with you on your journey of your learning. And that's
the Jiminy Cricket. It's the Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket. That's right. Or the Mushu. Just not as
or the Mushu.
But that's good. And keeping that in your mind makes you consistent throughout all the stuff you create as well, which is great.
Absolutely. Yeah. But also just on what you said now, Vishal, around, when you get this like really fully formed thing in discovery and how exciting it is to then just sort of head out the gates and get going, I also find it really exciting to unpack all the stuff that's unclear. Like I love going into like down those dark rabbit holes and like trying to make sense of things, and that to me is really exciting. Is taking what we've been given and taking it a step further and saying, look, this is what you've given us. This is what it could be. So different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Getting a delivery of books. You sniff them, you look at them, you caress them. Don't judge me, anyone.
Yeah, no, that's just you, the show.
Before you start reading them, and then you inevitably end up right next to you, and you just look at them, and then you finally read them, and you're like, oh, there you go.
Exactly. It's a delivery from Takealot, and you don't know what you're gonna get. The other. Sorry, go for it, Andrew.
Yes, sorry, and then just to on that point, this is where I see you guys working very well together going forward, like in the future, where as two departments start to like evolve here, and you guys start to have other people that are working with you and for you. It's like you're at that beginning stage, Sarah, of like that's where you're like that learning architect role, that like messy, like making character stuff, and then Vishal, I see you going down creative rabbit holes once you've got some sort of structure in place and like sort of letting a team of scriptwriters run. So that's an exciting future to look forward to.
Yeah,